And where we are, just to remind you if you weren't aware, we're almost at the end of the part of the canal which has already been improved. And if you go just over that direction, you come to what's called, for some totally unknown reason, the ocean. It's actually a pond, rather overgrown currently, which is the end of this part of the canal. Just beyond that is the railway, which Val will tell you about a bit later. And we're the canal consort, 6 of us, a group of 6, with Rachel, Val, Hugh and Mike, and Karen on the horn and Mark on the percussion, drums and other things. And our sequence for this first event and for the subsequent ones, which I hope you'll manage to make as well, is we sing, we hear a story, we sing again, we hear a second story. All wearing high-vis vests and so on. I hope most of them have programmes which you can have a look at if you want to, or they can tell you about it.
There's a few here.
There are a few around. But otherwise, I'll just tell you what's going to happen with. And then we go into something that if anyone joins in, you have to keep up the pace. Ding dong merrily on high. But first, Karen and Mark are going to play a kind of medley by way of introduction and welcome. A medley. And if you can count how many carols there are which they touch on, phrases of, during it, you're doing better than I'd managed to do last night when I heard it.
Trust, or what they call it now, for 48 years. I was born and brought up in Chalford, still there, and always knew of the canal and used to walk it with my parents. And as time went on, I got very interested in local history. That's what brought me to the canal and railways. Anyway, in the late 60s, I met my husband on Stanton Bridge at Bowbridge. Then we used to do, in the mid-70s, we used to do helping the pound, clearing the pound above Bowbridge for 2 or 3 years. Then family commitments came along. We're still members, but about 12 or 14 years ago, I started doing voluntary work in the Stroud Visitor Centre, promoting the canal. Then I help, when it's open, with the bookshop at Brimscombe. And recently, in the last 3 or 4 years, or 2 or 3 years, I've started with Jan Thomas with Cotsword Boat Mobility, which I love, which is excellent organisation and helps to keep the channel clear. Anyway, when I heard that we'd got this wonderful bid, lottery bid, I jumped with joy, because as my kids will tell you, they say that the Cotswold Canals is not just an interest with me, it's an obsession. To think that we can get, hopefully, from Soar Junction to Brimscombe Port in my lifetime, I think will be a wonderful legacy for our children and grandchildren. Be it you're a boater, a walker, cyclist, fisherman, and another passion of mine, which is wildlife. Anyway, I think that's all I really want to say, but I am passionately interested in the canal, and I think the future looks very rosy.
that you almost see over there to your right, it's beyond the bridge, carries the main line between Birmingham and the southwest. The original structure was built in the 19th century when the canal was still an important way of moving heavy goods. At some point in the 1960s, the railway bridge started to collapse. This was about 10 years after the Stroudwater had been legally closed to navigation, and serious moves to restore it would not emerge for another 10 years. So British Railways decided not to rebuild the bridge, but to create an earth embankment to carry the railway and to insert 2 culverts, the bigger one for walkers and cyclists, and the smaller one for water. Ducks can get through this. And it has recently been proven that so can a kayak, as long as you lie flat as you're trying to propel your way through, but nothing else. When I got involved in the Cotswold Canals Trust in 2013 and started the working group that became the team that produced the 2015 bid, it was already well understood that getting Network Rail to commit to rebuilding the railway bridge was one of our biggest challenges. We also knew that it would be one of the most expensive individual projects. We had contact with them right from the start, and they made it clear that they would be responsible for designing and constructing the bridge, and the project had to provide the money. What was not clear was whether they took the project seriously. Early on in the 2015 bid process, they asked for and got a financial starter just to get things moving. The problem was things didn't move very quickly. Still, Network Rail provided a price for the bridge that we used in the 2015 bid. Of course, the 2015 bid did not succeed, so we buckled down and started to do the things that the Heritage Lottery Fund asked us to do to make the next bid a success. And it was. By this time, in early 2018, the price of the bridge had risen to £2.7 million. It had proved hard all the way to this point to pin Network Rail down, and the task of doing so fell to the new team responsible for preparing the final bid that would allow the actual restoration, proof of the canal to start at our trade. Now, whether the working relationship between Network Rail and the project team would have improved anyway, there was a dramatic shift later in 2018. A group of Network Rail managers came to volunteer with the Trust as part of their corporate responsibility programme. And it just so happened that the woman who'd been given the job of leading on the bridge was one of those people. She found out about the project from the ground up, as it were, and became a convert. If this were a fairy tale, and of course it isn't, that would have been the end of any issues, as the fairy's wand would have magicked all of those away. In fact, there was still a lot of work to do. People from the project team at Stroud District Council and others from Cotswold Canals Trust worked and are still working tirelessly with Network Rail. Well before the National Lottery Heritage Fund, its new name, gave the thumbs up to the 2020 bid, Network Rail had allocated 2 weekends in May 2021 to close the railway line and construct the bridge. Work has already started on preparing the work area to the north of the bridge. By the early summer of next year, one of the major pieces of capital investment necessary to get the canal open to Saul Junction will have been completed.
nacido es el gran monarca, Cristo patriarca de carne vestido, a nos redimido con se hacer chiquito, aunque era finito, finito se hiciera. Río, río, chi, en la cuesta ribera, Dios guardó el lobo de nuestra cordera. Dios guardó el lobo